There's a lot of curvature tests out there which seem to conclusively prove that no matter where you are on this Earth, it is impossible to measure curvature. But that's obviously not good enough for a lot of people out there, so I've decided to take the curvature test a little bit further. From my Southern Mountains curvature test video, I have used some of the photos of the Southern Mountains taken from Wellington's south coast. This time I've picked out a few prominent peaks and determined their distance and height above sea level. What I've done is put each one onto a graph, as you can see here, color-coded for convenience. So basically you can draw a line perpendicular to the x-axis, and anywhere along the x-axis as it intersects with the lines on the graph, that is going to give us the proportions of the background. So we should be able to match the graph up to the photo, and the heights of the peaks should correspond. And if this works, this is absolute proof that there is no curvature. It works on the principle that it's all line of sight. So as you can see here, I've put some concentric rings from the spot that the photo was taken, so you can see the relative distances, just to illustrate that what we see in the background is just line of sight, but the heights of the peaks have been extrapolated to account for distance and perspective. So let's see how they match up. Almost perfectly. Again, this just would not work if we lived on a curved surface. And we can use this to find the actual sea level. So that's quite a prominent false horizon created by the waves and swell in the foreground, due to the camera being just a couple of meters above sea level. Or maybe it's as Dinky Cash proposed in his video on perspective, that past the point of convergence, the horizon actually starts to drop. So this seems to prove to me that perspective is a lot more complex than people think, and due to the fact that the further peaks do not seem to drop off, we can only conclude that it's flat. The perspective and proportions work out perfectly.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism back with another video for you today. A video and a question. If you were being lied to, if you were being deceived, would you want to know it? I'm assuming that almost everyone would say 100% absolutely yes. You would want to know. And I also assume that if it was obvious, you'd definitely want to know, and even more so if many of us already knew. Now imagine the entire human race, besides just a few parasitic clowns, are being deceived, and then imagine that those of us who are saying that the Earth may be flat can see the deception, the lies, the nonsense, and so all we're trying to do is to show you. Because here's the deal. This week, the physics students from the University of Leicester sent a balloon so high up they saw the Earth's curvature. Just by taking a look here at the Google results, we see the university students film the curvature of the Earth. The second one says students film breathtaking curvature of Earth using a high altitude balloon. And then the third one says students film stunning images of the Earth's curvature using a weather balloon. So no matter what site you went to, you see the emphasis on the new images of the curvature of the Earth. Here's one more source, and again we see the same thing. Students film stunning images of the Earth's curvature using weather balloons. Very important to film this curvature. Next we've got just an image from the launch, the little balloon launch that we're going to be talking about. You'll see that there. Does that sun look 93 million miles away? If you said yes, get out. Get out right now. And so here we are just looking at an image from the balloon launch, and as I slowly start to blend it in with the ISS rotating ball Earth, you'll see that they were virtually identical, yet the ISS, we're told, is 15 times higher than that balloon. How high, you ask? Well, I'm pretty high. I mean, I smoked a... Huh?
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale.
So how high did the balloon go? Well, it went a whopping 14 miles. Wow. 14 miles high. And the curvature happens to look just like it does for the 250 mile high ISS. That's around 15 times as high as this image that we see here clearly shows there's an issue. And so as this balloon heads up into the sky, courtesy of those physics students at Leicester University, let's watch how here at 500 feet we have curvature to the Earth. And so you're telling me that these physics students can't see that right here at 1,000 feet, for some strange reason, we again have massive curvature to the Earth? I mean, so in the physics world today, do they not understand that convex lenses or fisheye lenses or GoPro add a distorted view, causing things to look spherical that aren't? I mean, are physics students so dumbed down? Are the media outlets so confused and blind? And are NASA fanboys so enthralled with their form of erotica that they can't see the fakery of the augmented curvature? I mean, they just keep making excuses for the love of their life and the object of their affection. So yeah, Play Fanboy Magazine, working right along with NASA, the king of size issues. You know, they love to throw their size facts around. For example, would you believe that this building, the Vehicle Assembly Building at Kennedy Space Center, is 525 feet tall? Maybe. That's almost 2 Statues of Liberty. Now let me ask you this. See that flag up on the wall there? Would you believe if I told you that NASA says that that flag is the size of a regulation NBA basketball court? Would you believe that? Well, you might. It looks pretty close. What if I told you they actually say the blue square equals an NBA basketball court? I'm calling bullshit. Alright, so let's talk this out. Clearly this footage is a GoPro camera image. Clearly it's distorted, and yet every news agency says the same exact thing. Students catch view of the Earth's curve. And that sun, does that look 93 million miles away to you? If it does, get out. Leave now. So we've got the curvature of the Earth being the same at 500 feet, or 1,000 feet, or 14 miles, or 250 miles. Nothing to see here. Move along, move along. Just some liars on television, and then we got the entire scientific community who just sits there, watches this, and can't question why the so-called curvature can be seen at 500 feet and 1,000 feet. And again, at 14 miles and 250 miles. Pretty sad, and I do feel for you if you can't see it. What you need to realize is they taught you to fight against anything that goes against the mainstream that they need you to believe in. They need you to believe in the ball, so anything that says anything different is dumb, is moronic. But if you can't see that, well, that's on you. If you just accept the globe model with no understanding of the flat and no clear evidence for the ball Earth, do you see the problem there? We're told the globe is scientific. We're told that scientific means tested and repeated and researched and documented and tested again. And yet when you really look into it, you find no evidence for the globe. Can't find the curvature. Can't figure out how water bends. Can't figure out how it sticks to a spinning ball, or how we fly 2.2 million miles per hour through space and don't feel it. Alright, so now I'm in my video editor just to show you something. You can see on your screen exactly where I'm at. I'm going to the part where we're near the ground, and we're stopping it when we've got a significant curve there. And we're going to use the lens correction tool and see if we can get rid of the fisheye lens. Okay, and you'll see I'm heading up here and changing this lens little radio button here, this little slider. And we'll try it there and see how that works. Looks pretty good on that picture. But there we see the pretty pronounced curve again, although it looks okay there. So I think we're close. Almost ready for you. Just going to keep moving it a little bit more until it looks right. And I'd say that maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I'd say that's about good. So I'm going to then load it up without the fisheye lens and see what reality holds. Just because we're taught the ball Earth and taught about the 23.5 degree tilt and the motion around the axis and the orbit of the Earth with its 584 million mile yearly journey around a sun 1,000,000 times the size of the Earth does not make it true. Just because you think satellites are in the sky sending your DirecTV signal to your dish doesn't make it true. In fact, head over to Wikipedia, type in communications satellite, go all the way down to where it says geostationary orbits, and look at the last line there where it says, in applications that require a large number of ground antennas, such as DirecTV distribution, the savings in ground equipment can more than outweigh the cost and complexity of placing a satellite into orbit. Womp 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 womp. Boom. Can I get some sound effects? Thank you. Alright, so we're now going to watch the non-fisheyed view since it's been redone and had the lens corrected. So you can enjoy that, and while we're doing that, I'm going to read you a few quotes. Trouble arises when either science or religion claims universal jurisdiction. When either religious dogma or scientific dogma claims to be infallible, religious creationists and scientific materialists are equally dogmatic and insensitive. By their arrogance, they bring both science and religion into disrepute. Freeman Dyson. There must be no barriers for freedom of inquiry. There is no place for dogma in science. The scientist is free and must be free to ask any question, to doubt any assertion, to seek for any evidence, to correct any errors. J. Robert Oppenheimer. And by that he means any question, even if it's the shape of the Earth, even if it's the distance to the sun. So even though science backers think it's real funny to call other people names and call people morons and how stupid are they and they should go back to school, and that's not what they're talking about. Every question should be able to be asked because any fact should be able to be backed up with evidence. And unfortunately, one of the fundamental beliefs of this world is that we live on a ball, and the part that sucks is it comes with no evidence. And the last quote, although all men are born free, slavery has been the general lot of the human race. Ignorant, they have been cheated. Asleep, they have been surprised. Divided, the yoke is forced upon them. But what is the lesson? The people ought to be enlightened, to be awakened, to be united, that after establishing a government they should watch over it. It is universally admitted that a well-instructed people alone can be permanently free. James Madison. So hopefully you enjoyed the non-fisheyed view of the Earth. Certainly not a ball, certainly no curvature, and certainly don't need lies and distorted views to prove it. So we just saw what some students can produce by sending up a weather balloon with a camera on it, probably a GoPro Hero 4 or Hero 5. And what you see in front of you now is what we get from our beloved space agency, NASA. You see they're showing the great storm of Cinnabon rolling here on the left. This is disgusting. How do we allow these guys to continue providing absolutely nothing to the human race? You know, they get $50 million a day.
What the hell? That's too much money, man.
$50 million a day. So let's just think for a second. Let's imagine we're NASA and we're going to buy a camera for spacewalks, for the ISS. Let's go shopping. Pretty much the best camera you can find right now is this Phantom HD Gold. It is Unbelievable. It shoots at 1050 frames per second in 1080p. Unbelievable. It's a cinema camera. It's what they use for the movies, and its price is $110,000. So if we got NASA and they've got a budget of $50 million, let's say we're going to buy them the best camera there is. So we got $110,000 and that purchases the camera. You figure we're going to have to add some add-on special lenses to get this thing to be tricked out. Let's say they cost another $100,000. Then we got to get that thing space ready. So let's say that costs us $200,000. And so let's see what that does to NASA's poor budget. Well, for that particular day, it's going to go down to $49,590,000. Geez, that certainly will be rough for them. I guess I see why they can't afford a better camera in space. It's so expensive, and they have such a tiny little budget. Only $50 million a day. I mean, $50 million every day. So I get it. Okay? I mean, if one of those days in the year drops to $49,590,000, geez, it's just gouging their already tiny budget. I mean, which is only one half of the percent of the yearly U.S. budget. You know that, right? Oh, shoot, and I forgot. It's actually going to be even more expensive. We need to add at least another $100,000 to get that camera waterproofed for spacewalks. Totally forgot. Add it to the list. And last, but not least, and not to toot my own horn, but simply to show other flat earthers that we are actually making a difference, and then to ask the NASA fanboys to take their heads out of the latest pages of the Play Fanboy magazine and to answer me, why are these changes being made? Why are holes being covered up? You might want to reconsider, because I think you're in love with liars and cheats. You'll see in the middle left here, on August 1st, I put out a video saying NASA was ending their live feed from the ISS. And I did that in response to an article that they had written. About a week later, I got a bunch of people calling me a liar. I said, what's this all about? And I went and checked, and they took that part out, that they'd be taking the 24/7 live feeds of the ISS off. And you can see here on the lower left of this page, it says last updated August 9th, 2016. Making a difference. When I talked about north-south circumnavigation and Sir Ranulph Fiennes and the fact that he's simply the cousin of the royal family and that he supposedly went to the North and South Pole to do the circumnavigation, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records. I went there and made a comment which became a pretty packed full comment thread of people refuting and people agreeing with my evidence. I went there the other day to check on the comments, and the entire comment section is gone. Next, we can talk about my Stephen Hawking video where I pointed out that even the ALS website wouldn't put his name on their list of people that are famous and infected with the disease because it would be a laughingstock and quite rude, actually, to the other people who suffer from the disease or the people whose family suffers from the disease, because people only live usually 3 to 5 years after diagnosis. Stephen Hawking has lived 50 years. So anyway, after my video came out, not too long after that, somebody sent me a screenshot and I went and checked it out. And sure enough, ALS must have got that phone call, told him, put his name on the list. They're on to us. They're on to the scam. So guess what? He's there now. And last but not least, you may have remembered a video I did a while back where I talked about Polaris never moving. And I used as an example by turning that clock down below to like 5 or 6,000 AD and 5 or 6,000 BC. And the fact that in those 12,000 years the star did not move at any is proof that the North Star never moves. So what did they do when I went back today to check it out? I noticed that now the machine stops at 2,500 and 1,500. I wonder why they would change that. Hopefully you guys are getting the point here. Again, this is just a tad bit frustrating that so many of us can see the deception while so many cannot. It's right in front of them and they can't see it. There's just liars no matter what they do. My hope for everyone is that they just take for a day and try to prove you live on a ball. Try proving that man went to the moon. It's impossible. It never happened. And what's wrong with science? Science has people that are very, very smart who will tell you that we landed on the moon. That doesn't really make them smart. It makes them wrong and maybe kind of stupid. And lastly, to those scientists, those astrophysicists, those people at home, and those students who built that payload, you guys need to wake up and realize they're using simple lenses to fool your entire mind, to fool your entire world.
Man, this video is for the people who think the horizon is the curvature of the earth. As if that hasn't already been debunked thousands of times. So I'm just gonna put it to rest here. Let's go to a distance to horizon calculator. And say we're at the shoreline. Say it's 6 feet of altitude, okay? Right? That's where your eyes are. Calculate distance. 3 miles, okay? So, according to you, we can see the curvature drop off in 3 miles. You know how the boat goes over the horizon in 3 miles? But then you just get a telescope and you zoom in and see that boat because water's flat and the earth is flat, right? So now let's type in 30 feet, right? Oh, our horizon moved to 6.7 miles. So is that still the curve? If we're at 30 feet in the air, we see a boat go over the curvature, as if that's curving at all. But then we get a telescope and we zoom in, we find out it's not curving. Then let's go to the top of a skyscraper at 900 feet. And it looks like we can see 36.8 miles to the horizon. So do you see where this doesn't make sense? Where the horizon can't be the curvature? And it'll just keep going. I mean, if you were in a tower 2,000 feet tall, your horizon would be 54.8 miles away, right? So where's the curvature? The horizon is horizontal and it's flat. No matter what your distance, let me just type in 120,000 feet. And your horizon is 425 miles away. Let's type in 200,000 feet. And your horizon is 549.2 miles away. And it's flat. So don't tell me the horizon is the curve of the earth, because you just sound like an idiot. So I'm calling BS on anybody who still velcros themselves to that argument, thinking it's legitimate because it's not. Peace. This video is for the fools who say I'm not high enough to see the curve. We're going to start out at sea level. So far there's no curve, and these are the 3 criteria. The horizon is going to be flat. It's going to go directly across the center of the screen, and it's going to rise to my eye level, all right? That's the criteria. That's what I'm assuming is going to happen on the flat earth. But I'm not high enough, so let's get higher. Okay. It's in the middle of the screen. It's flat. And it rose to my eye level. But I'm not high enough, right? Okay, so let's climb a little mountain and find out that it's flat. It rose to my eye level. And it's in the middle of the screen. But I'm going to assume you don't think I'm high enough. So let me scale a skyscraper and get on the roof. And let me find out that the horizon is flat. It's in the middle of the screen. And it rose to my eye level. But obviously I'm not high enough, right? I mean, it's not like there's actual curvature. Oh wait, there's supposed to be 8 inches per mile squared. How many miles do you think is in this panorama? It looks like it's at least 50 miles. So let's plug that in. 50 times 8 equals 400. Squared is 160,000 inches of curvature that I'm supposed to be seeing. Do you know how many feet that is? Divide that by 12 equals 13,333 feet. But to me, the horizon is completely flat. Isn't there supposed to be 13,333 feet of curvature in this photo? So far, the globe is off to a bad start. But you're probably going to say, I'm not high enough. So let's get even higher. Let's go to Mount Everest and find out that it's flat. It's going straight across the middle of the screen, and it rose to my eye level. But of course, how did I not see this coming? I'm not high enough. Oh, I'm not high enough. So let's get into a plane, find out that the horizon is flat, it's in the middle of the screen, and it rose to my eye level. But obviously, I'm not high enough. So let's go into space. And I find out at 110,000 feet in the air that it's flat. It's going straight across my screen, and it rose to my eye level. So help me find the curvature, because right now it's undetectable. Because at sea level it's undetectable. At 13,000 feet in the air it's undetectable. I mean, on Mount Everest it's undetectable. At the top of a skyscraper it's undetectable. In space it's undetectable. But let me guess, I wasn't high enough. I'm sorry. I was high enough. I was well beyond the height to see the curvature. Keep telling yourself I wasn't. So I'm calling BS on the curvature of the Earth, because there is none.
Surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects, providing another proof the world is a plane, not a planet. Canals and railways, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles, without any allowance for curvature. One surveyor, Mr. T. Westwood, wrote in the January 1896 Earth Review magazine stating that, "In leveling, I work from ordnance marks, or canal levels, to get the height above sea level. The puzzle to me used to be that over several miles each level was and is treated throughout its whole length as the same level from end to end, not the least allowance being made for curvature." One of the civil engineers in this district, after some amount of argument on each side as to the reason why no allowance for curvature was made, said he did not believe anybody would know the shape of the earth in this life. Another surveyor and engineer of 30 years wrote to the Birmingham Weekly Mercury, February 15, 1890, stating, "I am thoroughly acquainted with the theory and practice of civil engineering. However bigoted some of our professors may be in the theory of surveying according to the prescribed rules, yet it is well known amongst us that such theoretical measurements are incapable of any practical illustration. All our locomotives are designed to run on what may be regarded as true levels, or flats. There are, of course, partial inclines or gradients here and there, but they are always accurately defined and must be carefully traversed. but anything approaching to 8 inches in the mile, increasing as the square of the distance, could not be worked by any engine that was ever yet constructed. Taking one station with another all over England and Scotland, it may be stated that all the platforms are on the same relative level. The distance between eastern and western coasts of England may be set down as 300 miles. If the prescribed curvature was indeed as represented, the central stations at Rugby or Warwick ought to be close upon 3 miles higher than a cord drawn from the two extremities. If such was the case, there is not a driver or stoker within the kingdom that would be found to take charge of the train. We can only laugh at those of your readers who seriously give us credit for such venturesome exploits as running trains round spherical curves. Horizontal curves on levels are dangerous enough. Vertical curves would be 1,000 times worse, and with our rolling stock constructed as at present, physically impossible. Engineer W. Winkler wrote into the Earth Review, October 1893, regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal, and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that, and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle. The Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean Sea with the Gulf of Suez on the Red Sea, is a clear proof of the earth's and water's non-convexity. The canal is 100 miles long, and without any locks, so the water within is an uninterrupted continuation of the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. When it was constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line, 26 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line and the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles. The average level of the Mediterranean is 6 inches above the Red Sea, while the flood tides in the Red Sea rise 4 feet above the highest and drop 3 feet below the lowest in the Mediterranean, making the half-tide level of the Red Sea the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, and the 100 miles of water in the canal all a clear continuation of the same horizontal line. Were they instead the supposed curved line of globe earthers, the water in the center of the canal would be 1,666 feet above the respective seas on either side. David Wardlaw Scott wrote, "The distance between the Red Sea at Suez and the Mediterranean Sea is 100 statute miles, the datum line of the canal being 26 feet below the level of the Mediterranean, and is continued horizontally the whole way from sea to sea, there not being a single lock on the canal. The surface of water being parallel with the datum line, it is thus clear that there is no curvature or globularity for the whole 100 miles between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Had there been, according to the astronomic theory, the middle of the canal would have been 1,666 feet higher than at either end, whereas the canal is perfectly horizontal for the whole distance. The Great Canal of China, said to be 700 miles in length, was made without regard to any allowance for supposed curvature, as the Chinese believe the earth to be a stationary plane. I may also add that no allowance was made for it in the North Sea Canal, or in the Manchester Ship Canal, both recently constructed, thus clearly proving that there is no globularity in earth or sea, so that the world cannot possibly be a planet."